What's that? Out in space, it's a station with a T-Rex face, firing lasers and playing games and killing all those herbivores. Out beyond the atmosphere, he's collecting stuff and striking fear. Come on board and grab a beer for gameplay vids and retro cheer. T-Rex Space Station.
Hi guys, it's Ben here. So as you'll know, I've recently been sorting out my video game collection into these shelves and getting everything at least roughly alphabetized. And I've really wanted to show off my Wii Collection for a while because it's actually the system that I've got the most games for properly. I've not actually counted them. So I thought it'd be a good time to do it now. So I've just taken them off the shelf here and got them laid out on the floor. And yeah, I'll just talk you through each game, but a little bit briefly because we've got quite a few titles to get through. But I will say a little bit about them. I've said before that I think the Wii is a really great system to collect for. It started out a little bit slowly, but by the end there's certainly a great library of games, lots of variety, and some really good third-party titles as well. And the games you can get really cheap these days. You know, some of them you can get new for £10 or less, which I just think is great value. So yes, let's crack on. So first up is A Boy and His Blob. I believe this is a sequel to a game that was on the NES, but it's a really fantastic game with beautiful looking hand-drawn, cartoony, animated style graphics. It's a really good showcase of how the Wii can look really nice. And it's basically a platform/puzzle game in which you use this cute little blob to solve puzzles. You can transform into different tools to help you progress. And yeah, this is a really fantastic, beautiful looking game. Next up is Animal Crossing, Let's Go to the City. Now, I've never really been massively into the Animal Crossing games, but I did give this one a go to see what the fuss was all about, really. For those of you who don't know, they're kind of like, well, I'd probably describe them as life sim games, I suppose. You don't really play them in long bursts or try to complete them and things. You just kind of have a house and you go around exploring and collecting fossils, making a house, making friends, just sort of faffing around, really. It's a great game to kind of go on for a bit of a noodle, I suppose. It's not really something that was very immersive for me, but I did, have fun playing it for a few weeks, perhaps up to a month or so, but I got a little bit bored in the end. The series is very popular, and a lot of my friends have been really addicted to these games, and I think there's a newer one on the 3DS at the moment, which I didn't really bother with. But nevertheless, if you're into kind of games that don't really go anywhere, that take, a few minutes of gameplay each day and just kind of noodle around, then you might be into them. Next up is Baroque, which is a really interesting title on the Wii. I think that they also had a version on the PS2. This is one of the few roguelike titles that you can get on the system. It's a really interesting concept. You kind of play in this strange kind of afterlife type weird world, and it's an interesting concept because you have to die to progress the story. Of course, each time you respawn, you'll have to do certain new things while you're exploring the dungeons, and they will trigger events in the story. Unfortunately, for all its great ideas, I think the game actually itself isn't that great because it comes down to basically exploring a rather formulaic and bland-looking tower. But it does have some cool things like random item generation and randomly generated dungeons. The things you'd expect from a dungeon-crawling roguelike. But I don't know, it just didn't quite do it for me. It didn't have that magical touch. And I think part of it was that the graphics were a little bit bland. Next up is The Conduit, and I got the special edition for this game. Now, this game was really hyped as being one of the Wii's best first-person shooters because it managed to come closest to sort of, emulating for next-generation graphics at the time, trying to compete with games on the 360 and the PS3. And true, it does look very pretty in places. There's really smooth-looking graphics that are close to HD. But that said, I think they made sacrifices to try and make the graphics so good, and actually a lot of the environments kind of turned out to be a little bit bland. It says here it's the best shooting game on the Wii. I personally didn't enjoy it. I couldn't get into it. I didn't find the gameplay that good. As I said, the environments seemed really bland. I think they kind of sacrificed a lot to try and get a game to almost be as sharp as a 360 game, almost, not quite. So yeah, I don't know. I'd not played the second one, but yeah, some people like them. Here's a cool game. This is called Cursed Mountain, by a company called Deep Silver. I don't know what other games they've made, but this was a nice third-party title on the system that I picked up for a $5 new, and I'm pretty sure you can still get it for really cheap online. It's a great survival horror game where you're basically a guy climbing up a haunted mountain full of interesting and quite scary ghosts. And it uses great use of the motion controls. One of the things that I really struggle with survival horror games, things like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, with the horrible tank-like controls. And I just really didn't like it. One of the only reasons why I found this game scary was because I couldn't fucking control it well enough to get away. But Curse Mountain uses the Wii controls quite nicely, and there are certain sort of quick time events, and you've got to like swipe the Wii remote at the end of battles to like destroy the evil spirits. And I have played that game to completion and really enjoyed it. Next up is Day Blob, which is a really colourful kind of 3D adventure game that I've not played yet. I picked it up for like, $4.99, and I've heard really fantastic things about it. I can't tell you a lot about it, but I think there are 2 of them on the system, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in with this one, because it just looks very creative and colourful and quite unique, so yeah. Next up, Dead Space Extraction. You may have seen this in my Wii on the Rails shooters video. It's, I think it's a prequel to the Dead Space story that we got on the Xbox 360, and it's different to a lot of on-the-rails shooters, and this one is really story-orientated, so it's like being immersed in the story, really. You feel like you're really there. It's got a lot of scary cutscenes. It really feels like you're kind of playing a movie. It's very immersive, very dark, but it does still keep, lots of traditional on-the-rails shooters elements. I did like that it keeps the weapons from the original games and the mechanics of trying to shoot off the limbs to kill the enemies, so I'd really recommend that, and again that was less than £10 new. Dead Rising Chop Till You Drop. Now, of course it doesn't have the graphics as good as the 360 version, but some people say this is better, and he drops it on the floor. Some people say this one's better because it allowed you to actually save your game properly. It is a real classic, lots of fun, smashing zombies over the face with all sorts of inventive weapons. Yeah, I think this is a really, really good port of the 360 game. Next up is Deadly Creatures, a game that had a lot of hype when it was first planning to come out. It had the voice of Billy Bob Thornton in it. It's quite cinematic, and I guess one of the cool things is you don't really get to play as a tarantula or a scorpion in many other games, none that I can think of off the top of my head. And it is quite, well animated. They really took detail to emulate the movements and behaviours of certain creepy crawlies, like spiders, flies, all sorts of nasty wasps and things. Unfortunately, the game itself is a little bit derivative and quite bland, and some of the environments are a little bit dark. Again, I have done a gameplay video of that if you want to check it out. Next up, Donkey Kong Country Returns, a really fantastic platformer on the Wii that goes back to those old school platforming, hardcore feeling games. Fans of the Donkey Kong series will love this, but actually even people who haven't been massively into it before will find a lot to enjoy here. And I really enjoyed the difficulty level in this. It doesn't give anything to you on a plate, you have to work really hard. And just a good old school game, but with obviously really nice modern graphics. And again, it's a Wii game that looks really beautiful. Another game here that I picked up just like in one of these really cheap like bundle type things in Game, I think it was, 2 for £10 or something, Elodies. God knows what this is about. I really haven't got around to playing it. I think you run around trying to search for these little electrical spark things. Don't know. The Wii has so many random games on it, I can't remember why I picked this up now. I've still not bothered to play it. Okay, here's a game that I thought was really nice, Endless Ocean, and I have done some gameplay footage of this back around Christmas time. A really novel idea for a game, essentially, where you're a diver, and you just go down exploring in the ocean, finding different animals. It's got little educational things, you can interact with the fish. It's got little missions where you've got to explore certain areas and things. It's got some online play, I think. You can dive with a friend, and you kind of like make friends with the animals. There's a little penguin that comes on your boat and you can interact with. And I thought it was a really peaceful, immersive game that's very unique. It needs a little bit of time, but I quite got into this and thought it was quite a nice idea. I think there is a second one as well on the Wii, which is also very good. Next up, Disney's Epic Mickey. I haven't played this, but when it was first about to be released, there were loads of great videos and lots of hype online, and it seemed like a really cool idea for a game where there was lots of sort of variety in the way that you could beat the game, different paths. I think you could play as either being quite evil or being kind of happy and good. And I think the can't say my words. Mechanic is that you kind of like use ink to paint things, and or you can erase things and stuff. I don't know. It seemed pretty cool at the time, but I actually watched some reviews. Not everybody thought it was great, but I do need to check that one out. Quite a few games here that I've bought that I've not got around to playing. Here we've got Final Fantasy Fables, Chocobo's Dungeon, one of the other roguelike games on the Wii. You can tell I've got a penchant for roguelikes. This is quite a nice Final Fantasy game that stays true to the roguelike formula in that you have randomly generated dungeons. You do have a class system, which is kind of like a Final Fantasy thing, isn't it? Some of their games do have that. And you level up, you get randomly generated items, I think you can craft new weapons and things. And I thought it was pretty good. Graphically, it's not amazing, and it does get a little bit derivative as you start to get later into the game. But I thought it was a pretty nice dungeon crawling roguelike that was nice to see. Nice to see the Final Fantasy series taking a new turn, really. Next up, Ghost Squad. You'll have seen this again in my Wii on the Rails shooters video. A fantastic arcade port, really fun, action-packed. On the Rails shooter, there's lots of different things to unlock, scores to get, you can level up. It is multiplayer, it's really fun, you need to check it out. Next up, GoldenEye 007. A really great reimagining of the original game that has it has different levels, and it actually surprisingly was different enough to the original game. I think this is a great looking game on the Wii that shows again that these graphics aren't always bad. The graphics on this look really great. It had a fantastic multiplayer that I still play to this day, and I was really impressed with this game. Harvest Moon Tree of Tranquility. This was a game that I found they were clearing out from Morrison's that I got for a $5. I'm not really massively into the Harvest Moon series. I did try to play it for a little bit and I was like, oh, I can't be bothered. I don't know, another one similar to, what was it, Animal Crossing. I'm not really into games where it's like life sim or where you do little bits each day and stuff. I just, don't know, couldn't get into it. Okay, House of the Dead 2 and 3 return even. Ports of the second and third arcade games. Shame you don't get one in here, but these are great games and you can buy this. Actually, this is quite rare. It's hard to find. I had to get this one off eBay, I think. I think I got it for like £15, so you've got to check this out. And then we have the House of the Dead Wii exclusive, Overkill, which is really, really good. It's got this kind of 70s cop feel to it, like a 70s cop drama. Really over-the-top, action-packed. Pretty good graphics, a little bit of frame rate lagging here and there. But overall, an original House of the Dead game for the Wii, which is just fantastic. Indiana Jones and the Staff of the Kings. Not played this one. Picked it up for £5 from a car boot sale. I thought it looked pretty funny. It does use a lot of Wii motion stuff, which is really annoying. Like, I wish that you just had the option to use the buttons. But one of the reasons why I bought this was it includes one of the original old school LucasArts point and click Indiana Jones games hidden in the game somewhere, and I thought that would be quite fun to play on the Wii because I've not played that for a long time. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's probably worth paying too much for this game because the reviews weren't great really. Next up, Little King's Story. Rising Star Games really did bring out some fantastic, innovative games on the Nintendo Wii, and this is no exception. Got 92% from Nintendo Gamer. Well, there you go. It's a really great. Oh god, what do you call these types of games? Basically, it's probably a mixed strategy type game where you have like lots of little minions and you give them different jobs. You play as a little king in a kingdom, and you go around like doing different quests and things, using the different skills of your minions to help you. And it was really nice. You can like upgrade your palace, I think, and buy different items depending on how you go, and they allow you to unlock new vocations for your citizens. Mad World, I have done a gameplay video of this. You can get this one for like £3, I think, if you're lucky. Great Sega beat-em-up game, lots of blood and gore, over-the-top action, and a really great cel-shaded, stylistic black and white graphical theme, which is great, really cool looking title. Mario Kart Wii, do I need to say anything more about this? I was obsessed with this game when it first came out. I've played it endlessly. Never managed to get the 3-star rating though. I could only ever get to 2, which is a shame. But it was a really annoying system on it. You had to do certain things to get the 3-star rating. I think you had to like not touch the sides, win with a certain margin, and all sorts of other things. It was just solid. Okay, Medal of Honor Heroes 2. I got this to see whether the Wii could handle first-person shooters when I wasn't too far into collecting. And yeah, it's alright. It's Modern Warfare 2. Do I need to say much more about it? You'll know about that series, won't you? Metroid Other M. This is an interesting title. It was a bit controversial because people were like, oh, you're making a Metroid game that's like a 3D sort of adventure platformer. I'm not sure about this. But I thought this was really fun. And I think one of the big controversies was that you gave Samus full voice acting. I can't remember if the voice acting was good or bad now, but I remember really enjoying this, and it uses like 2 different views to the game. You could hold the Wiimote on the side. Graphically really nice, though it was a little bit pixelated in areas here and there, but I've played this one through to completion and really enjoyed it. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Now this is a fantastic game, in my opinion one of the best looking games on the Wii. Mixing first person shooting elements with lots of puzzles, getting power-ups to help you get through different areas. It's a bit of a head-scratcher in places. I still never have managed to complete it, because I think at the end you had to go back through all the old levels, and like, oh, I don't know, I just couldn't be bothered. It really annoyed me at the end, but I really enjoyed playing it mostly. Put quite a few hours into that one. Monster Hunter Tri, one of the best games on the Wii. The graphics on this are fantastic. Anyone who says the Wii can't do good graphics needs to play and check out this game, because it's just beautiful. It's not an easy game. It's not fast-paced. You have to grind a lot. You will die a lot. It takes a lot of time to get good at it and get moving forwards. But again, I've put a good number of hours into this. You've got to work really hard to get items to build your weapons up, and pick the right sets of armor for the right monsters. But the monsters are just so fantastic. They're really scary. It reminds me of the feeling you used to get on Shadow of the Colossus when you encounter a new monster, and you're just like in awe at the sheer size of them. It's fantastic. Muramusa the Demon Blade, another graphical treat for the eyes on the system. Fantastic hand-drawn art style, very Japanese feeling game. You can play as one of two different characters who have slightly different plots and different levels. You get loads of different swords. It's basically like a sort of hack and slash platformer, but it's so beautifully drawn. You need to check this game out. Yes, there was a Knights game, Journey of Dreams, on the Wii. Very famous Saturn game that I haven't played. It's obviously very classical, and I bought this one because I thought it looked really beautiful. The reviews are a bit controversial. Some people said it's actually not that great, but I'm quite looking forward to checking it out and seeing what they've done with it. No More Heroes 2, and I've got No More Heroes 1 and I have no idea where it's gone. Somehow I've managed to lose a game. I don't know if I've lent it out or something, but yeah. So I've played the first one and it's fantastic. It's like a fighting game, but very tongue-in-cheek, very fast-paced, lots of action, and really funny. The first one had sandbox elements, but the sandbox was so glitched in the first game that thank God they removed it for the second one. I've not really played this one much, but it looks much the same. Lots of funny humour, over-the-top action, and they've got really cool retro video game style mini-games in this, which I'm kind of looking forward to playing. They look like old-school 8-bit NES titles. You need to use those to unlock things and I think get cash. Next up is Okami. Oh, such a beautiful game. It is a PS2 game that's been ported to the system. The graphics aren't updated, but obviously the Wii motion controls work really well. It looks like traditional Japanese art, and it looks like it's been painted. Everything looks like beautiful brushstrokes. You play as this like spirit wolf. It's a very, very long game. Lots of hours required if you want to complete it. But think of like a more artistic version of Zelda, perhaps is one way to describe it. But it's such a beautiful game to see. Next up, Apuna. I wanted to pick up some quirky RPGs on the system because it does have some good RPGs. This is one you can find pretty cheap online. You play as this like weird fat-headed, strange cell-shaded kid, and your family like crash land on a strange planet. It's not that great an RPG, but it has got some interesting elements. It's a little bit slow to get going, but I did enjoy the combat system in it. You basically fire a sort of ball off your head, and you can like spin it around enemies, put it over enemies or under them. I need to play a little bit more of it, but I did put about 10 hours in and thought, this is a bit slow moving, and kind of gave up. Next up, Punch-Out! Now the original Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Is a superb game on the NES. Everyone will be familiar with it, and it's great to see Little Mac coming back for the Nintendo Wii version. Quite nice graphically, uses the motion controls pretty well, and yeah, there's not much more to say, it's really fun. Yeah. Red Steel, possibly one of my favourite first-person shooters on the system. I loved this game. I loved the combination of first-person shooting with sword fight battles, which use the motion controls really well. It's got a great story, and you'll want to be progressing and learning new skills from your sensei, I think you do. Yeah, I really enjoyed the story in this. I've played it through twice. And it has got a 4-player multiplayer, which is... Sorry about that, my camera completely ran out of memory there because this video is kind of waffling on too long, so I had to delete some other stuff. Yeah, as I was saying, it's got a really funny multiplayer mode where basically you get a mission in the Wiimote speaker. It's like, kill certain person, but it's really like horribly garbled. It's like... I played it with my friends and nobody could hear what the hell we were supposed to be doing. Just running around and shooting the shit out of everything as we always do. The sequel to Red Steel was Red Steel 2. This one went for a cel-shaded type graphics, which I think looks pretty nice. It was more of a sort of mission-based game. It didn't seem to flow quite as nicely as the first one to me, but it has improved the controls. It got better kind of fighting moves, slashing moves, and uses the Wii Motion Plus, so it's much more responsive and develops on the first one a bit better. Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles. Another on-the-rails shooter. You'll see some of this in my on-the-rails shooting video. Didn't really like it, couldn't really get into it. I don't know, it just didn't seem to impress me that much. Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition, apparently the best edition of this game, and one of the best Resident Evil games out there. Played it a little bit, found it really bloody hard and gave up. I'm just not massively into Resident Evil, I'm so sorry, but I can appreciate it looked like a really cool game. Rogue Trooper, The Quartz Massacre. I think this is on the PS2 as well, I can't remember actually. It's quite a nice little third-person action game. You play as this blue kind of rogue alien guy collecting, and you can collect like the name badges of your friends to bring them back to life. You're basically trapped in this war on a strange planet. You go around blowing the hell out of everything, firing rockets at stuff, throwing grenades at things. It's just a pretty good generic action game. You can get it for pretty cheap. Sega Superstars Tennis. I only just bought this the other day because I've been looking through some of the sort of Sonic or Sega games that aren't just you know, Sonic 1 on the Mega Drive. And this looks like a really cool game. It's got some very good ratings. It's not just a standard tennis game. It's got some fun other modes, it looks like here. Shooting tennis balls at dragons and all sorts of things. I don't know. Looks like it should be fun. Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Starry Skies. This is one of my favourite Nintendo Wii games. It was a really underrated title that seemed to slip under the radar when it first came out, but anybody who knows about what's good on the Wii will tell you to get that game. It's a really fast-paced, graphically fantastic, kind of on-the-rails shooter. You just have, I don't know, you just basically have to blow up everything, but it uses really good like interaction between foreground and background. There's lots of good things going on the screen. The boss battles are really, really epic, and it's bloody hard as well. I have beat it, but only on like the easy mode. Once it got to normal, I was really struggling. The Skycrawlers Innocent Aces, you can see this game in my 5 game recommendations video. This is quite a nice like aerial combat game that's pretty good graphically. It mixes like an anime theme with kind of like anime style cutscenes, and there's like someone who's got like some kind of superpowers that can fly a plane that turns evil or something like that, I can't remember. But it's quite fun. The missions are pretty varied, you know, it's shooting each other, dropping bombs, shooting at giant ships, you know, boats and things, and you get to level up your planes, and as you do better at the missions, you'll unlock more score and more points, and you can unlock better planes, and you need to actually play the missions through and do them better than you did the first time if you want to actually get a good enough plane to beat the game. And the last boss was really quite hard actually. Sonic Colors. I've not played this, but my girlfriend has. I bought it because, again, I've been looking at some of the later Sonic games to see what they're like. I know that Sonic's had a bit of a dry spell, and people have said there hasn't really been much in the way of great titles since like Sonic Adventure. But this is a really well-rated game, and apparently back to form. I have seen Neve playing it, and it does mix in some of the great like 2D platformer elements with the full new style 3D stuff. It seems to keep the pace of the original game really well as well. I think that's one of the hard things to do, to get the balance between the pace of the old games and perhaps some of the sort of 3D exploration that we expect from platformers these days. But it seems to have the balance really right, so I'm looking forward to tucking into that one myself. Next up, Spyborgs. This is like a 2-player co-op beat-em-up type game, which looks pretty fun. There's lots of shooting, fighting, explosions. Not played it, still in its wrapping. Get this £5 new. Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Really great Smash Bros game. I love this. I always play as like Pikachu for some reason, but it's got loads of different characters. I really liked the inclusion of Sonic, the inclusion of Sonic Snake. If you don't know about the Smash Bros series, then where have you been? And we're all really anticipating the one on the Wii U. This is probably going to be one of the games that clinches the deal and makes me buy the system. Super Mario Galaxy. A mind-blowingly good platformer, really inventive. You've got to collect stars in a variety of different worlds. They're all really colourful. The graphics are very sharp, fantastic. And Super Mario Galaxy 2, which is, well, it's probably an improvement on the original one. Both of them are great games with lots of replayability value. And I think if you get all the stars, you get to play back again as Luigi or something like that, which obviously I never managed to do. Wario Land, The Shake Dimension. Not played this, but it's a colourful looking 2D platformer using lots of Wiimote waggling. You know how much I love that. Legend of Zelda The Twilight Princess. I loved this game. I played it through 1.5 times. Really, really enjoyed it. I thought it looked fantastic graphically. It's no different from the GameCube one, except for that you get a bit of you know, different controls. But the controls work really well on the Wii. And yeah, I just really loved this game. I can't remember a lot about it now. Yeah, but it was pretty good at the time. Zack and Wiki, this is great. This is a puzzle game, and it's really bloody hard. You play as this kind of pirate guy. You're after some treasure. You're accompanied by a cute little monkey type thing that can transform into different objects. And it's basically a series of different worlds that each has like 5 or 6 levels of puzzles to do. And you've got like, there's a time limit in terms of the longer it takes you, the worse your score is. and it's really tough, like really tough. But I have been enjoying playing it with my girlfriend, and we're slowly getting there. But some of the levels just involve a lot of timing and skill and lateral thinking, but it's really colourful and yeah, very unique actually, so I'd really recommend that. Then there's a couple of limited edition box set games left. Pandora's Tower. This game was hyped. It was one of the later releases, maybe the second to latest release. It was really hyped as being a great kind of RPG slash platformer, 3D platformer, with a kind of cool chain mechanic where you can use your chain to activate puzzles, kill enemies, drag enemies around, bash them against the walls. Unfortunately, I didn't find it to be that inspiring. It looks a little bit bland. The level design is okay, but a bit derivative. The levels start to all look the same. The environments weren't that pretty. But it has got some pretty quirky ideas, and I thought the boss fights were great, actually. I think your girlfriend is getting taken over by some kind of crazy virus or something. You've got to bring back demon flesh for her to eat. It's all very Japanese and weird, but cool concept. Unfortunately, slightly less than amazing delivery. Legend of Zelda: The Skyward Sword. This is a limited edition box set with the sort of Hyrule type thing, Wii Motion Plus controller, which is, yeah, really cool. It's very beautiful looking. I think they did very well to get such great graphics on the Wii, and it's really great flying around on those crazy dragon type things. I can't remember what they're called. The Last Story, I just picked this up recently. I wish I'd bought it when it came out on release. It was 50 quid for the limited edition box set. I had to pay 70. I've not played it yet, but it looks like a really beautiful game by the Final Fantasy team. I think it's kind of mission based. I don't think it's like open world. I think you kind of progress through missions, which is a little bit more linear, but I don't mind that so much. Sometimes faffing around in an open world play is a bit much, but I'm really looking forward to playing that. I think it was the last big title on the Wii, and it looks great. Then there's also Xenoblade Chronicles, a limited edition box set, which came with like this red, rather plasticky controller. This is such a big game that I've only managed to get about 20 hours in and gave up. Phenomenal graphically. It's just a fantastic JRPG. So if you like JRPGs, you'll love this. There's loads and loads of side quests and hundreds of things to collect. It's just like you could probably spend a year playing this and not have everything. I don't know. It seemed really vast, but quite collectible and quite a nice game to have if you're into JRPGs. So yes, that's my whistle-stop tour of my games. I hope you haven't minded me rambling a little bit about them. And I started to speed up towards the end because I was like, God, there's so many more to go. But yeah, let me know if there's any games here that you like, or if there's any games that you want to recommend to me. There's still quite a few missing from the collection. Some of the big titles still aren't here, and I've got my eye on things all the time. So alright guys, please comment, and yeah, I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.